49ers alarm clock update time. It is April 2nd, and it has people wondering if Kyle Shanahan was running an April Fool's joke at the NFL owners meetings.
I thought Jake played well. When you study centers throughout the league and things like that, and you watch all these guys, I think Jake's up there when it comes to his pass protection. A lot of these guys get mismatched against head of noses and some of the D tackles they got to go against. I think Jake does protection as good as anyone in this league, and I think he's always been a very good run player for us too.
Will Hennessy factor in at all? Will there be any sort of competition at that spot?
I don't really look at it going in as Jake's competing. I think Jake's played at a pretty high level. I think our whole line has. It's going to be hard losing Banks. It's really hard losing Jalen Moore, who's been a great swing tackle, who's got to play a lot with Trent being down half of last year. So those are the things that we got to really look to replace. And getting Hennessy there at the end of the year, we've always loved him at center. He's been a very good guard. We do have an open spot with some open competition there. But we'll see how all that plans out. That going into this season, going into OTAs, going into training camp, I do feel there will be as much competition on our team for starting spots as there has been in a while, especially on defense. But we kind of want to create that everywhere. We haven't had that for a while. We've gone into drafts these last few years, not as much last year, but especially the 2 years prior to where you look at our board and it's like, man, we don't really have to find a starter anywhere. You got to find depth because quickly they're a starter with an injury. I remember going into 3 years ago and felt the only starting position we could find was a kicker because we were so solidified. And it really isn't that way this year. So we're going to go into this draft, hopefully add 11 people. We'll see how that plans out, add them into our OTAs, and hopefully we'll have some really good competition come training camp.
So I was taking notes while Kyle Shanahan was talking because there were three things that I think a lot of fans believe might have been April Fool's jokes. First, Kyle Shanahan was talking about Jake Brendel pass protecting at a very high level, maybe near the top of the league. Second was that the 49ers would really miss Aaron Banks at the left guard position. And the third was that Matt Hennessy, who was the center that the 49ers poached off of Atlanta's practice squad, would compete for the starting left guard position. We'd known Matt Hennessy as a center. I know he's got some guard experience, but to me, I did not expect him to be in a firm mix for the left guard position. But it does seem that Kyle Shanahan did indicate that. So April Fool's jokes or no? Well, first, I can tell you what is not an April Fool's joke, and it does pertain to the offensive line and some of these discussions about Brendel, because people often group Colton McKivitz, the 49ers right tackle, into the same Brendel discussions. They think that the 49ers need to rid themselves of McKivitz to have a better and more competent offensive line. Well, McKivitz yesterday, in what was not an April Fool's joke, saw a trigger hit in his contract that guarantees $2.2 million of his 2025 salary. Now, don't be mistaken. The 49ers do have value at right tackle with Colton McKivitz, and that is not to say that this is their long-term right tackle of the future. He's only under contract, by the way, through this 2025 season. But these are percentile scores, and I think this should add some really important perspective to the discussion of the 49ers offensive line, because I do think that some of what Kyle Shanahan said was a stretch based on the data, but I also think that a lot of the fan reactions that have been going on for a long time before these owners' meetings have not accurately captured what the 49ers are getting from their offensive line. And I think that I was on the offensive line train improving this before anybody was really complaining all too loudly about it. I still remember this being the main point of emphasis for me after the 2019 Super Bowl. But anyway, these are percentile scores in pass block grade and run block grade. And when you look at Colton McKivitz, he actually was an above-average pass blocker at the right tackle position last year. This is going to shock a lot of people, 56th percentile, so he's better than 56% of offensive tackles. And this will shock people, but you have to realize that almost every single NFL team is a little frustrated, or at least the fan bases are frustrated with at least one of their offensive tackles. There are more talented pass rushers than there are offensive tackles. Linemen are in shorter supply. McKivitz actually wasn't quite as good of a run blocker, relatively speaking. Blue is good, red is bad. You see amongst the starting offensive linemen who are above the dividing line here. The 49ers had some good run blocking performances in 2024. When we talk specifically about Jake Brendel, the pass protection was lacking. He was 39th percentile, which isn't terrible though, right? He was still better than 39% of centers. I was especially critical late in the season of Brendel. I think that maybe the knee tendonitis that slowed him down early in training camp, maybe he wore down over the course of the year. There was that one play against the Miami Dolphins where Calais Campbell was able to come around on the stunt move, on the game move up the middle, and he was able to hit Brock Purdy. And I thought that was Brendel's fault for not picking him up, and it turned into the game-ending interception. By the way, Calais Campbell just signed with the Arizona Cardinals, going to play his age 39 season back with his former team. But there are examples like that of Jake Brendel struggling last year, but by no means is this a bottom barrel center. I just think that he's emblematic of the 49ers pass protecting struggles in the middle. And we need to be rational about this. We need to come out, and when we're talking about the 49ers offensive line, it's not productive to exaggerate in one way or the other. Talking to John Lynch at the NFL owners meetings, talking to Kyle Shanahan, Jed York didn't really talk about the offensive line, but then talking to other people, just off the record, having discussions about how the 49ers are doing. They obviously don't have a world-beating offensive line, but they don't have the worst offensive line in the league either. In fact, they were around middle of the pack in terms of pass block win rate this past season. That's ESPN's metric. They actually improved in the O-line metrics from 2023 to 2024. But I think that's oversimplifying things. And that's why I write pieces like this up on the San Francisco Standard. I talk about the investment the 49ers are going to have to make moving forward in the line. Nobody's denying that an investment's going to have to come. Both Lynch and Kyle Shanahan said that the 49ers would be on the market to try to improve the offensive line, but both of them tempered the discussion about this unit. It wasn't this crazy extreme, it's terrible. It was worse in 2023 when Purdy had that awesome season because they were downright atrocious on the right side of the offensive line. If you guys look at this right here, look at the right guard and right tackle positions. If you went to pass block percentile in 2023, where it's 37 for Dominic Puni and 56 for Colton McKivitz, it was 2 and 4 respectively for Spencer Burford and Colton McKivitz. So McKivitz made massive strides in 2024. Puni was a lot better than Spencer Burford, who I now think is going to be a swing tackle for the 49ers. I think he's better suited for that position. By the way, you're probably wondering, why is Puni's grade the lowest here in terms of percentile along the offensive line and pass blocking? Because he was actually quite good as a rookie and was really good in the run game. I just thought he hit a bit of a rookie wall. I think Dominic Puni is going to be a fixture for this team. It was obviously a good pick, and I would expect him to be well above the 50th percentile in 2024. So you've essentially fixed the right side, the right guard position with Dominic Puni. Colton McKivitz, you've got under contract for one more season. And then you look at Jake Brendel and Aaron Banks. Now, when Shanahan said they'd missed Aaron Banks, I'm like, I think the 49ers are going to be better off with Ben Barch. I really do. I've been pretty adamant about that. Look at Barch here at the very bottom of this chart. He played 65 snaps, so I know the sample wasn't big when he was replacing Aaron Banks. 93rd percentile pass blocker, 68th percentile run blocker. I could tell you a little bit about Ben Barch. This is a guy who, with the promising prospect coming out of college, smaller school kind of guy, promising prospect, thought he played well for Jacksonville, dislocated his knee. And I mean, it was a big time injury. I think it required some surgery, and it wasn't really up to full strength. And the 49ers poached him off of Jacksonville's practice squad. He used to start for Jacksonville. The poaching happened in 2023. So I think he's fully up to strength now. And then we saw this excellent play from Ben Barch last season against Buffalo and then against Chicago before he suffered the high ankle sprain. It's going to be Barch. It's going to be Nick Zakelj, who was a really good pass protector over 162 snaps, but obviously the run blocking needs some work, as you can see right here. And then we've heard from Shanahan that Matt Hennessy is going to be in the mix for that center position, but I think for the left guard position, but I really think that Hennessy is more cut out to compete for center. Based on everything the 49ers said, though, they have not ruled out drafting a rookie. And Brendel is 32 years old. There are rookie centers in this draft who fit the 49ers scheme. And I will have to say that the past few seasons have really poured some rain on the notion that a rookie cannot succeed at the center position. I mean, from obviously Creed Humphrey has been a stellar center. The young guy was picked high up in the draft and has really taken over for the Kansas City Chiefs. But other players drafted a little bit lower, such as Graham Barton, such as Tyler Linderbaum, such as Zach Frazier. Those are all rookie centers who have succeeded. Joe Tippmann for the New York Jets also played some good football. I mean, there's examples here in recent memory of centers performing well in their first year. I don't think the 49ers necessarily need somebody right away in their first year, but I think that with Brendel being 32, with San Francisco having 11 draft picks, and with some centers available in this draft, Gray Zabel's probably going to go in the first round. He was an impressive performer at the Senior Bowl. You got Jake Majors coming out of Texas, Jared Wilson out of Georgia. Wilson probably will be the first center drafted after Gray Zabel, but that's just a smattering of three potential centers. But with the 49ers having those 11 draft picks, the potential ability to pick somebody, Brendel being 32, this could be a good year for San Francisco to begin shepherding the next center. And the reason that I bring up young guys and their potential to play early and the changing tides around the NFL on that front is because we had always considered center to be a position, especially in Kyle Shanahan's scheme, where you have to have a veteran. I mean, he pursued Alex Mack twice after he originally had him in Cleveland, including once in San Francisco in 2021. He gave big money to Weston Richburg in 2018. Unfortunately, that didn't work out because of the injuries for Weston Richburg. But the center seems to always be a veteran-heavy position for Kyle Shanahan just because of how cerebrally challenging it is, identifying the safety rotations, setting the protections. I've talked about this a lot. You go back to Bart Oates, Steve Young's BYU buddy, who came over to the Niners from the New York Giants in '94 and helped San Francisco win a Super Bowl. Then there was Chris Dahlman, Drew Dahlman's dad, who was Steve Young's center later in his career. Centers have taken on more and more responsibility to allow the quarterback to do his thing. And I think it's so important for the Brock Purdy operation that within the context of Kyle Shanahan's scheme to make sure that the center knows what he's doing. And that, just the meticulous nature of the position, I think, requires a lot of nuance in the way that we analyze it. So, no, I don't think that Kyle Shanahan was delivering an April Fool's joke about Jake Brendel. I do think that he's protecting his player. I do think that when you look at the actual data, Brendel hadn't been as bad as some of the fans say he is, but he also hasn't been as good as Kyle Shanahan insinuates that he is. Shanahan, of course, though, is talking from a coach's perspective, and that often is going to involve the schematic and the cerebral knowledge that Jake Brendel has to bring to the table of doing some of the stuff that fans might not necessarily notice. So you have to take Kyle Shanahan's words and realize the direction that he's coming from. Center would not be as easy to replace as some people think that it would be. But the 49ers do, just like they have to have that tackle succession plan. Maybe they pick a tackle at number 11. And just like, tackle and center, I think those are the two centerpieces of this offensive line. I think that they need to be thinking about it this offseason in the NFL draft. Back to what definitely wasn't an April Fool's joke. This is the really newsy part of this 49ers alarm clock update. April 1st is coming past. That means that all these 49ers contractual triggers are now officially in the books. As I mentioned, $2.2 million guaranteed for Colton McKivitz, $6.5 million guaranteed for Dealmaro Lenore on April 1st, $1 million guaranteed for George Odom on April 1st. Yetur Gross-Matos, $3 million guaranteed. The big one, obviously, Brandon Ayuk, $22.9 million option bonus due. So Brandon Ayuk is locked in with the prorated salary cap hits of that option bonus over the next 5 years. Nick Bosa saw $22.7 million of his 2026 salary guaranteed. Nothing for Jake Brendel, by the way, on his contract. He's got 2 more years under contract, no guarantees. We've passed that portion of his contract, nothing triggered on April 1st. And of course, we talk about what's next. Juwan Jennings on September 1st is a $5.6 million option bonus, which would be prorated due. I think the 49ers tried to extend Juwan Jennings before then. That's my prediction. This has been the 49ers Alarm Clock Update. Thanks for joining. Hope you enjoyed the coverage from Palm Beach. You guys are going to love where we're headed to next.